And one of the people who came to our conference each year was Luc Montagnier, and you may know about him. He won the Nobel Prize for discovering HIV, and then he became interested in water, and he became interested in the idea that water may contain information, and he did an amazing experiment that many people doubt, but is now confirmed by 3 independent laboratories. And let me just tell you about it, because it has something to say about some of the topics that you've been talking about. So he put DNA, a short strand of DNA, in water or in an aqueous buffer, and a sealed container. So nothing could get out, nothing could get in, nothing could get out. And next to it, he put another sealed container containing only water. And his hypothesis was that the sequence information along the DNA was somehow being transmitted, somehow, but not by conventional means, to the water that's here. And in order to prove it, so the two were sitting next to each other for perhaps one day. And then he threw this one away, and he takes the water that he said had been informed by some kind of information, but he doesn't know what kind of information. And it probably relates to some of the things that you've been talking about. He takes it and he uses the standard PCR method that is used so commonly for COVID right now. And it's used to amplify the number of DNA molecules. And so it's easy to analyze what you got. And he found that what he got, the sequence of new DNA that he got from this, was the same as the one that was sitting next to the vial of water, not communicating in any way, except by kind of subtle information. And that result amazed not only all the people at the water conference, but many people around the world, some of whom just dismissed him with the wave of a hand, saying, I don't care if you won a Nobel Prize, this is nonsense. It can't be correct. Similar to the kinds of reactions that you were talking about early on. You know, scientists...
See, one of the things that I've found out, because I do believe we get given the hookup to the right people at the right time, and that I accept I'm out there. I accept that people think I'm crazy. I don't have letters behind my name. One of my early complaints was I wish I had have studied to be a doctor first and then a priest and then went on the global stage. But it was just a normal woman living in a certain way that had this ability.
Anyway, normal. No,
that's true, hardly.
Gifted in so many ways.
Well, I've always met up with the right people at the right time. And one of these people is Nassim Haramein. Now, I don't know if you know him, but one of the things he's proven is that the mathematical construct of an atom, that an atom operates as a black hole, and that's been proven. And I said to that team, I would love Nassim to prove that an atom operates as a white hole as well, depending on whether you're receiving or transmitting energy. That's interesting. But Nassim was pranic, lived on pure source energy for 3 years.
Welcome to Wellness Spring, our one-stop shop for education, inspiration, motivation, and optimal wellness. Learn from top experts and exceptional people. Welcome to Wellness Spring. Today I'm with two incredible souls, Jasmuheen and Gerald Pollack, who are doing amazing things to help our planet and humanity. And I have actually interviewed them separately and had the inkling to interview them together, as Jasmuheen is a breatharian, an ambassador for the Embassy of Peace, who has traveled globally since 1994 and achieved many positive things in the world with her work with tribal communities, and presenting her work again at the UN in Vienna in 2013. She's the author of 42 books, which have been translated in 19 languages. And Gerald Pollack is a water scientist and professor of bioengineering, and he is recognized as an international leader in science and engineering. He's the founding editor-in-chief of the journal Water and executive director of the Institute of Venture Science. He's also an author of 18 books, and his last one is called The Fourth Phase of Water. And when I read it, and after our chat, it was like, I just loved the experiments you were doing, Jerry, with the plant and the sun and the photosynthesis and talking about the energy. And then you talked about how this happened the same with humans, with the sun and the energy and the water. And we even mentioned Jazz, and I said that she was breatharian, and you talked about Pradjan that you knew. And I had the light switch. We were coming to the end of the call because you were also talking about consciousness and the new stuff you're doing. So I thought I'd connect you both together. So voila. And I know for the audience, Jazz and Jerry have never met before, and they had a quick hello together before the call. And Jazz mentioned that she's got two lovely cats with her that she didn't know if she should hide them in another room. And Jerry said, oh no, keep them here for the energy. So maybe, Jerry, you'd like to start and ask Jazz a question.
Oh, well, I'd like to know how long you've been a breatharian, and are you still doing it? And do you have any idea where your energy comes from?
I do. You know, I think we all have these little gifts to give to the world when we hit a level of consciousness where we're just interested in operating in a way that is for the highest good of all sentient life. I think that's a very deep heart commitment. It's not a mental science. It's more a sense that we can be very nourishing presences for all life. I know for me, this life, I came in with such a sensitivity to the consciousness in animals. You know, I remember I must have been about 9 or 10, and I was in love with horses. And one day I went to see a horse that I was pretending was my own, and it wasn't. And this cow came up with the horse, and the horses, like cats and all animals, are such transmitters of love. But this cow came up, and it just came so close, and its eyes were just radiating the greatest peace, the greatest awareness. And I made the decision in myself that I just wouldn't be involved in the eating of cows anymore. And I really moved very clearly into a vegetarian reality just out of love and awareness of the consciousness of sentient life, since we are talking a lot about consciousness today. And one thing led to another. You know, you make these commitments between you and the unified field of infinite potential. And when you make a commitment between you and this infinite potential field that science would call the unified field, then things start to move when it's a hard commitment. And so I just slowly over time just started to experiment more with my diet until I found I was living on very few calories a day and feeling better and better and better for it. Because I'm a great believer in experiential research. I could, like many, study all the books, like read the Upanishads, read the Bible, read all the holy texts, but it doesn't mean much until I go into a deep experience of what the wisdom that these ones carry, which I asked for quite early in my life. And there's other issues too, because could this be connected to a gift that you were born to deliver to a world, to be part of a pattern of energy of change? Because you imagine if this is a reality that we can relax back into a different energy. My interest, the 99.999% vibrational space in an atom, what is it? So I've been meditating on that. I've been meditating about 50 years, and for the last 10 years, really meditating on the vibrational construct of what is vibrating through the atomic structure at its purest level. Now, at its purest level, I found the first vibration was love. Oh. To be able to unhook from the external world and to just go into this heart of show me the truth of who I really am beyond the human construct, which is really just a mind game, a hologram that we play in. Show me, let me feel the truth of all the religions. Let me feel the truth of all the holy messengers. What were they talking about? Let me feel what's going on there. So when I was 16, my first experience in meditation was this love. So much love just rising within me and vibrating through me, and light. Just a whole explosion of my being into light. And I realized for those seconds, didn't last that long, but I realized that what I am then and now, wasn't a 16-year-old girl. I was a being of the greatest light and the greatest love, and I realized I had no hunger. All my hunger disappeared, and so my heart commitment was like, I want more, show me more, show me more. Because the baseline frequency of what vibrates through the atoms, through dark matter, through the unified field, first is love, infinite love that takes away all human hunger. That's what feeds me. And then from that love is the light and the key codes of creation and the sacred geometric patterning and the mathematics for creation to exist. So my interest has always been, okay, 93, body converted, didn't need physical food anymore after 20 years of meditation. And it's like, how does this happen? How can I explain this to others? I was very shy, didn't want to talk to anyone about it, but I actually started to have beings of light manifesting in my bedroom when I was meditating, who invited me to go out into the global stage and share what I was experientially living, which I didn't want to do, but things happened and convinced me that that was my journey, and to do it and to handle all the from people, particularly scientists and doctors, saying this is impossible.
Well, see, that's where we intersect. I think it's obviously not impossible because you're doing it, and so and others have done it too. But my own approach as a scientist is perhaps a bit less spiritual than your approach, and I'm not sure whether to ask this on the basis of a question or to talk about what we found, which may have some relevance. And I don't want to dominate the conversation with a lecture on what we found, but some of it may be necessary because at the bottom line, what we found is that light is very important, not only for plants, but for humans and for all animals. We take in light, and light gives us energy. And it's not a complicated issue. It follows from you might say, from the essential principles of physics and chemistry, nothing exotic. And so when you ask the question, or when one asks the question, when you're friend scientists who are not really your friends when they when they ask the question as a when they doubt you because it's impossible because everybody knows, quote unquote, that you get your energy from food and nothing else, and therefore it's impossible that you could be happily existing without any kind of eating. But obviously it's what you do, and so you prove them wrong. But the question is the mechanism, and you were talking about spiritual kinds of considerations, and I would talk about considerations that are based on, I hate to use the word conventional, but based on physics and chemistry, which I believe demonstrate that there is a way that you can explain what you do on the basis of physics and chemistry, and it has to do with what we discovered about water, that water is not as simple as many of us would make out. Water's been studied for countless years, and you'd think that everything that ought to be known about water must already be known. It's not the case. So we discovered some things about water that at its most foundational level was not known before, and that is water's ability to store and deliver energy. And what, if I just may add a few words, we found that we did experiments. Oh boy, I'm not sure where to start because I don't want to be obscure. The phenomenon itself is actually quite simple, but I need to go back a bit to tell you and others about what inspired us to look and what we found and what its implications are for energy. So we looked for reasons that I'll skip. We did a simple experiment. We took a container, a chamber of water, and we put a gel in one end of the chamber, and we added little particles called microspheres, little spheres that are used commonly in scientific experiments in the water. And we were looking for some region, presumably next to the gel, where those microspheres would be excluded. And we found it. And this zone of exclusion, we called exclusion zone at first, was really extensive. And it had to be that the water in this zone was differed somehow from ordinary water, because otherwise, why would this water exclude? And one of your colleagues in Australia, near where you live, suggested to me, a guy named John Watterson, who used to be in the physical chemistry business and studying water. He said, why don't you call it exclusion zone? Because it excludes. So we called it exclusion zone. Later, we found that it had properties that differed remarkably from ordinary water. And later, so we called it fourth phase water because it was not, it was different from liquid water, and it certainly wasn't solid, and it certainly wasn't vapor. So we called it a fourth phase. And now getting to the issue of relevance to breatharians, we found that this zone of exclusion or fourth phase was charged negatively. And if you start with ordinary water, which is neutral, you can't convert that water to something that's negative. There has to be a positive region somewhere else. And we found that that positive region was just beyond this area of exclusion. So you have a negative zone next to a positive zone. That's a battery. And battery, you can't get a battery from nothing. It's like having your cell phone and thinking that your cell phone could be used without plugging it in the night before. You lose energy. It has to be charged or recharged. And it's the same thing with this battery that I'm talking about, this molecular battery. And the critical point is that we found that it was light that powered this battery, especially infrared light, which we can't see. It's all around us, in huge amounts. So now, if you apply this to the human body, so we know that this fourth phase water fills your cells. And if your cells don't have enough of this water, then your cells are not performing in the way that they should ordinarily perform. But you need the energy. You need the energy from light or infrared light to build or rebuild this water. And so what I'm getting to is that there is this source of energy which everybody has. Now, we also, at least in theory, we have the energy that you can read about in the biochemistry books that comes from food, and that is eventually through a very complex pathway that leads to the production of ATP, which has supposedly a high energy phosphate bond, which delivers supposedly all the energy to our body. However, we now know that there's an additional energy source, and this energy source is the electrical energy source, and it's powered by light, infrared light. So if you don't eat, the punchline, if you don't eat, then perhaps you're missing this energy source that comes from ATP, or perhaps not. But you do have this energy source that's powered by light. And so you, as a spiritual person, may be absorbing more light, or even more light, than non-spiritual people through prayer or meditation or whatever. And so you depend, or you can depend practically entirely on this kind of energy to power everything that you need to be powered in your body. You know, if you walk, you need energy, and energy's got to come from somewhere. And you know, it's possible that one can attribute it to mysterious sources and such, but I'm a practical guy, you know, and I'm thinking that you could do exactly, or almost exactly, the same thing that plants do. Plants get their energy from light, and the first step in the photosynthetic process is the splitting of water into positive and negative, which is 100% efficient, by the way. And what we found is something that resembles so closely this first step of photosynthesis: light coming in, creating a negative zone next to a positive zone, which is basically the splitting of water molecules. In fact, I kind of think it's possible that the first step of photosynthesis is just a well-developed version of what we found to exist generically. So you may be more like a plant than you think. I think I can stop there.
Thank you.
Because I don't want to give a speech.
No, I wanted to give a bit of feedback. Firstly, I call myself someone who is source-fed, meaning the original vibration that brought creation into being is my source of food. And I've been so delighted to meet with people like yourself, Masaru Emoto, others, with the research they've been doing, because it makes my work easier when I've tried to share this with the greater world. Like when Masaru released his findings, which, as you said, he came from a different focus to you, what I found was interesting was I could say to people, look, we are so much water. Our brain, 80% water, different parts of our body, such a high percentage of the water element. Now, what happens when you begin a conscious communication with the elemental structure of what's vibrating through you? And we have different elements we're tapping into, from water to fire to earth to the external plane elements, but we also have higher elements, like cosmic fire is an element we work with, which is actually pure love. That, comes back to a very esoteric feeling reality, not very left brain logical. But I love the fact that with Masuro's work and your work and our work too, that we can bring in perhaps a field of potential that then we expect you guys to prove.
Well, we can't prove anything. We can only disprove.
You can, yes, that's true. And what is interesting is, let's look at brainwave patterns. When human beings are anchored in the beta brainwave frequency, if you stop taking physical food, you'll die. That's just a fact. When you anchor more in the alpha brainwave pattern, your physiology begins to change. When you go permanently anchored in the theta brainwave frequency spectrum, the whole physiology of your body and how it operates is different again. So you're absolutely right. The secret to this actually is how you spend your time, because how you spend your time determines your vibration, which determines your frequency, which determines how the quantum field interacts with you as an energy construct. So what if I just sit in my body as a conscious being, not a human ego personality self, but as a vast multidimensional construct, and I love it, that's inhabiting this form, and I lovingly say to it, body, I love you, I love you, I love you. You are an incredible mechanism, and I'm asking you to vibrate yourself, realign yourself to the original force of creation that's flowing through the atomic structure, that's flowing through the water. And I'm asking you to absorb all your vitamins, all your minerals, everything you need to be a strong, fit, healthy, self-sustaining, self-regenerating mechanism. This is my will as the divine beingness I am within you. Make this my experiential truth. Now that's a code. I'm a coder. That's programming. I spent 10 years of my life as a computer programmer, making rich people richer till I got bored with that. But now I've understood the consciousness of the energy construct we inhabit and how it will act in a certain way depending if the master's in. If I stay in beta frequency of doubt, and what our logical mind tells us, I can never progress to understand the magnificence of this human design and what we're actually able to achieve. But it first must be experiential, not by me, but by hundreds and thousands of people now who are demonstrating this ability, coming back to lifestyle. So we spend our time doing very particular things that allow us to move slowly, organically from a beta frequency brainwave reality to anchor into a theta zone where a whole new reality comes in. We've seen the solar gazers who are bringing energy like photosynthesis direct into the brain through the solar feeding, solar gazing network. Their problem was, what if there's no sun? That was an issue. They can't do that practice. I've seen the 6,000-year-old tradition of the Qigong masters who are in a high vibratory field of Gaia, the electromagnetic field of Mother Nature, who can work with energy through Qigong to the degree they stop feeling hungry on any level. They're also meditating as well. And then what happens when they go to the cities? They can't maintain it because it's a different vibratory field. A city is a collection of all the consciousness blending together of all the people who dominate that city, many who aren't meditators, many who are in beta frequency of I'll believe it when I see it. Whereas for us in our world, it's like, maybe I'll try and believe it and then see what comes, or open up to the field of possibility with show me the truth of this, reveal to me the magnificence of this human design, and what are we really able to do? That's what I want to know. I don't want to play in left brain, logic, mind land, which I've done myself, but you know, it just creates unhappiness. Even Einstein said he would receive his theories in an intuition, and then he'd prove it mathematically, which most scientists get. You know, they've got a problem. They're thinking, what's the solution? It could be this. Einstein's theory, what was he riding on a bus and thinking of a ray of light moving? And all sorts of people talk to me about that original intuitive impulse. So my reality is what happens to a human when you are balanced, left brain, right brain, and two are working together in absolute harmony. What can we get? So what do you want to know is the first question. We're surrounded by this unified field. It's vibrating through us, the field of infinite potential. What can it deliver to us? Well, nothing till you're ready. So there are people who are just not interested in this. That's fine. But for those of you, my interest is I would love to see a race that is free of all hunger. No more physical hunger, no more emotional hunger, no more mental hunger, no more spiritual hunger. Because if we were whole and complete and hungry-free human beings, what would this planet look like?
This is a good
all
point.
disease, all disease, all poverty, all chaos, all injustice comes from mental and emotional hungers. The game of power and money and greed and I don't have enough and taking and subjugating and the whole system, all of that can be rebalanced when the human being can receive the right nourishment that is not dependent on anything outside of themselves, and they tap into that never-ending vibration that is actually giving us life.
Can I ask you about that vibration? You know, I hear many people talking about the vibrational field and a higher frequency of vibration. Could you tell me, because I don't know it, about what is the evidence for the existence of such a field?
Okay, I love this. You know what the evidence is? Is a life. No, I will tell you, it's a life filled with grace. You see, you can exist in what I've discovered in Earth is there's zones, and zones are like suburbs in a city. And actually, let's talk about it in New York City, and you're living in a basement apartment. And all you can see is through the slats in the window, feet walking by and dogs coming by and urinating or something.
I've seen that.
I've seen that. And we're all like, ooh. And that's a very interesting construct. And you don't have a higher picture and you're not quite sure, but you're surviving. And then you get to a point in your own life, in your own heart, where you say, there's got to be something more, but it's got to come from there. Maybe that call for more leads you to, I don't know, lightening up a diet because you were sick, or maybe doing yoga, or maybe learning meditation or whatever. But your vibration changes and you find you're actually relocated into a higher state of awareness, which is like the next apartment above. And then consciousness keeps expanding because that's in your blueprint. But more than that, it's answering the call of your heart, what you're ready for, until you actually find you're anchored in the penthouse. And in the penthouse, you're like, whoa, this world is magnificent, because you have a much higher perspective as to what is happening and why. But more than that, and your journey, you're clicking in, you're attracting from the field of infinite potential, what I call the flow of grace. And so you're always in the state of gratitude because you think something and it comes. You want to know something and somebody sends you an email with a link to the data, or a book comes, or someone is having a conversation in the cafe beside you, answering that very question. I call that grace. I call that synchronicity. So the evidence is this. As an intelligent being, you have the ability with left-right brain intelligence to create any model of reality that you want. And the question is twofold. Is the model of reality you are creating with your innate intelligence beneficial for all sentient life? Is it creating harm on any level? And does it fill your heart with gratitude? And does it fill your life with grace, where you're constantly going, oh my God, I can't believe this. This just happened. That just happened. This just happened. And you're living a life that is so joyous and so easy. And it's like, that's proof. Now, to the scientific community, But to the individual who's living that life, it's like, yep, my model of reality is working for me. And if you're hitting brick walls and life is difficult, it's like, do you have the courage to change your model of reality? Maybe incorporate more of the higher senses, not just left brain logic, but right brain intuition, and live in a way that's a beautiful harmonic. So what's happening with pituitary gland and pineal gland is they're harmonized. So the frequency coming from the master glands is activating parts of you that maybe have never had the opportunity to be activated before because of how we're constructed. Like your pituitary gland produces amrita. You can taste it. It's like cosmic chocolate, but much better. Your pineal gland produces DMT, which is what's found in sacred power plants. Like, see, my research, we take people for 20 years and we've been putting them for 9 days and 9 nights, used to be 11, in absolute darkness, 24 hours a day for that period of time, not one skerrick of light, no physical food. We live a particular lifestyle. We change how they're vibrating. We check their bloods and everything before they go in. We check it all coming out, and everyone's healthier and happier, and no one comes out hungry.
That's
wow.
Amazing. It's amazing.
Love that.
Yeah. I mean, as a scientist, I'm always, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever, looking for concrete evidence. And I hear the term all the time about vibrational frequency, and we aspire toward a higher frequency. And as a scientist, I look for concrete evidence for the.
Yes, you have to. Yeah, that's your goal.
I'm just wondering, do you think eventually, I know you're convinced that it exists, I'm just wondering if eventually you think there may be some method of measuring it to confirm that there is such a thing? Yes,
there are. I mean, see, we use methodology of confirmation that still isn't accepted scientifically. Like I like kinesiology. And one of the things that I test with people or check with people is how to check truth for you. What's higher truth for you? Because you're the one you're proving it to. Freedom comes to you when you've lived something. We don't have to prove it to anyone else. And first we prove it to ourselves. So one of the things we use is to check people's current physical body prana percentage to see if it's even safe for them to do this. And one of the methods you can do is watching the breath and how you're being breathed when you make a conscious statement, whether you know it's true or not. So a conscious statement may be when checking your prana percentage, okay? So don't change your breath. Just watch where it goes. We are being breathed by something. When we are in alignment with that something, that essence, pure essence, it lets us know. My cat is making noise. But this essence lets us know we're in alignment by how it changes the rhythm of the breath. So you make a statement regarding prana, source energy. Source energy currently provides more than 50% of my physical body nourishment. Now, that's a long statement, but it's been said into the field. So then you just keep focusing more than 50%, more than 50%, more than 50%, and see where the breath goes. Now, for me, the breath goes right down to the belly because that's a truth. For others, maybe the breath goes, because that's not a truth. So this is fascinating to play with, to make a statement as if something's real, even if you don't know it is, and watch where the breath, that very force that gives you life, is going to confirm a yes or no. And that's how people take themselves through this, because you must keep your body safe. Now, if I get, say, my physical body prana percentage is 80%, which is great, And that's determined by how I live my life and spend my time, what I'm giving time to, because everything gives you energy. Like the greatest source of energy, quick retuning, is go walk by the beach for 5 minutes. Go sit in the ionic structure of the ocean, and you're like, whoa, the wind, all of that powerful restructuring so quick. That's Mother Nature chi, and that's the effect on you. What about when you sit in meditation under a cosmic sky and you're starting to connect with the cosmic chi that's coming in? What about what you release in your body when you make love with someone and it's so delicious and you're so at one in that union? That's chi, that's love chi as well. So there's many types of chi. But if I check, and my pranic percentage physically is 80%, is it safe for me to stop taking physical food? No way, because I'll go into 20% fasting mode. And over a long time, that will create damage. So we make sure people do not unhook from taking physical food till their physical body prana percentage is registering at 100%. Now, if you're doubting the kinesiology check of breath, go and hire a professional to check with you. And I used to do this with my children who were sugar interested. And I'd go, let me show you something, daughters. Put sugar on your tongue. No, before that, I'd say, hold your arm up. And I'd push, push, push. And they'd be like, I'm strong. And I went, okay, now think sugar, 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 sugar. And as soon as they thought sugar, no strength. No strength. Put sugar on the tongue, no strength. And they'd go, but. And it's like, honey, you're as weak as can be because your body is saying, this is poison for me. No strength, lose your strength. So that's another kinesiology check. But again, people may not even believe in something like kinesiology.
Well, applied kinesiology is used, at least in this country, by various physicians, including my own. And Dietrich Klinghardt, I don't know if you know. No, he uses it. He's developed it using a system that includes some mirrors and such, and polarizers, using biophotons that come out, and often using a third person as the intermediary to measure the effect, because if it's someone who can do it objectively and can measure the difference between one condition and another condition. So I'm quite familiar with what you're talking about, and I wondered what you think of the idea of subtle energy and information transmission. Like, we're chatting with one another, and not just the verbal information that's coming forth, but also, especially if you were in the same room with me. It doesn't matter if you're in the same room, but information, and subtle information. And I'm asking you this because I think I know the answer, how you're going to reply, but I think we have a physically identifiable mechanism to explain it. And so do you think, do you think this is real, or do you think this is nonsense?
Oh, gosh, no. Look, my area, I am an interdimensional energy field scientist, okay? I study the higher light science, because when my body converted to living on prana and I was pushed literally onto the global stage for whatever reasons that happened there, I had to answer the skeptics. I had audiences filled with scientists and doctors and parents of anorexic girls and believers and non-believers and curious, and many people who went, this feels right for me. I've always known this is possible. How are you doing it? So I had thousands of people in the audience with all sorts of models of reality. And so for me, it was also like, okay, you've got to give me the science of this. And the science I study is called the science of matrix mechanics. Now, matrix mechanics is about the merging of membranes. Like here we are, a vibrating field of intelligence. We're not just physical, but we have the emotional construct that vibrates out from the physical, the mental construct that vibrates out further from the physical and the emotional. And we have the etheric construct that vibrates even further out again. We have the heart chakra, we have the meridians, the whole chakra system, the energetic construct, the acupuncture meridians. All of this is very, very interesting. But we are a vibrating system of energy. So I am vibrating at a certain frequency spectrum. You are vibrating at a certain frequency spectrum. When we come together, we start to infuse each other to the degree that we are open. Maybe you are only open to take in 10% of the commonality of vibration, but I'm also infusing things as well, intuitively and vibrationally. So we can have a partial merge, we can have a deeper merge. We have a deeper merge when we are vibrating, we draw to us. See, to me, energy expands, attracts like frequencies, then returns to its original source point. So we are, that's a universal law. It's a law of cause and effect as well. And it's just how energy operates. So I will attract to me certain people with whom I can have an exchange, but I can control that. I can also say, only introduce me to people with whom I can have a mutually beneficial relationship, because we all have a gift to give. I have a vibrational pattern they can benefit from. They have a vibrational pattern to benefit from. And I am only interested in mutually beneficial relationships that are up-leveling the whole. Now, with that clarity, that screens out a lot of people who aren't ready. Like, for example, when we were originally presenting this, 3,000 people would come, and they were so disruptive to the field because they were skeptics. They started yelling out. They were interrupting. You're a killer. You're responsible for anorexia. You're supporting this. Horrid stuff. And I just said to the field, get rid of them all. Get rid of them. Only bring to me those who are sincere and ready and open for what we have to share. Bring me the pure-hearted, sincere ones. Well, our audience dropped from 3,000 to 300. Now, my organizers didn't like that because of the money game, but I didn't care. I just want to connect with people with whom I can have a mutually beneficial relationship. Bring me that, because I'm not a human trying to understand who I am. I'm a vast multi-dimensional construct with an essence that can dominate my life as a king or queen, where the quantum field responds to me, because the quantum field is designed to treat you as a creator being. And it virtually just flows around you saying, what do you want, master? What do you want, master? What do you want, master? And if you don't know, the quantum field will scan you and bring to you the dominant frequency. Now, your dominant frequency may be you've just broken up from a relationship and you've got so much sorrow in your heart with all men are, whatever, or all women are, and you get more of that, and you get more of that, and you get more of that, until you say, hey, this is a brand new moment here, and I claim my co-creative power, and I am now asking, as a vibrational construct, to operate in this way. So many times you bring people with you, and your merge is like, you deep. You're going slow, and it's all telepathic. It's all on a clear, because we have higher senses, not just smell or touch. We have the sense of intuition, and we have the sense of knowing. And the sense of knowing is that we know it is what we know, even though we don't quite know what it is that we know, but we know that we know it. I love that sense. So we are, of course, we're merging all the time. And even in the world, can we disidentify with and unhook from and move out of the duality hologram? Because everything's holographic anyway. My field of study is the holographic nature of creation. And you play with that by experimenting within that. So I've learned I don't have to live in New York basement apartment. I can vibrate and hold the penthouse view. And when you hold the penthouse view, how you interrelate with all life is very different, because you can see people's patterns of energy, and all you can feel for humanity is love.
Well, that's beautiful.
Love.
That's extremely beautiful, but not the but.
Fun.
And no but. And getting back to my original, not my latest question to you about whether there exists a kind of molecular mechanism that would be understood by, shall we say, more conventionally oriented scientists that could explain some of this, because in order to not only to interest the scientific community, but to communicate with so much of the rest of the world. If some of these ideas were based on experimentally confirmed reality, then it's more tangible to so many of the people out there who may not be in line with your spiritually oriented kind of explanation. So that's making a few apologies for people like myself who.
No, look, I'd like to just tell you a story about a biochemist called Michael Werner, and German he was, and he got given my book, and he thought it was a lot of new age claptrap. This was one of my.
He decided to do himself what you've done.
Didn't like it at all, but he was fascinated because he'd had cancer. And because of whatever, he was at that time and stage in his life where he thought, I might do what she's talking about. And in those days, we had a very particular process to take people through with a long-term 10% success rate. To me, it wasn't good enough. And we also had one or two people who died, actually. Uncool. They just did it for the wrong reasons, all sorts of things. Their bodies weren't ready. Anyway, Dr. Michael Werner, he decided to do this and write his book about it called Life from Light. And he was fascinated because he successfully was fed by these source energies for many, 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 many years. And his job was to go to hospital. So he went to a hospital in Austria and a hospital later, I think in Prague, and went through all this machinery and hookups and readings with all the machines they had to measure what was going on. And both hospitals refused to release their findings. We've had this time and time again with people saying, I'm here volunteering for experiment. And then once all the data was wrapped up, they refused to release the findings.
Right.
Like, you think about this, if this is actually true, and I knew this going in when I stepped onto the global stage, because the light beings I work with said that I would challenge many industries. If this is true, we are challenging the billion-dollar food industry. If this is true, we are challenging the billion-dollar pharmaceutical industry, because we don't really get sick anymore. If this is true, we are challenging the billion-dollar medical industry. Well, that's a lot of challenging. Is our world really ready for this? Nah. But I say unto you that all our doctors and all our scientists will hit a point in their own consciousness where they will go beyond conventional methodology and say, prove it to me, prove it to me. And that's what I'll say to you. If this is true in your field of research, ask to be hooked up to the methodology in the fields that can prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is a reality.
That
being able to be source fed is a reality.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I mean,
and that's a personal journey.
Besides Michael Werner, I read his book as well. I was
good.
Yeah, there are many. The film by the Austrian filmmaker.
In the beginning, there was light, Peter.
That's right, and he's interviewed. I can't remember whether you were one of the people interviewed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but something like more than a dozen people interviewed. It's really hard to not take that seriously. And
see, now we have 220,000 people with this gift of freedom.
Is that right?
We have another 550,000 in slow organic training. The majority of people who've been around as long as I am have retired and went, I don't want to deal with the biofeedback from the fields. They've done their bit. For me, I'm in a different phase again, because once you prove it to yourself, and that's the proof, that comes back to what you're asking, this must be experiential truth. It's not intellectual proving, it's experiential, and we know this. So as more and more people have the gift, what I find is in the old days, people would hear about it and go, not possible. Now people hear about it and meet people doing this who maybe eat once a month or once a year or once a week or whatever, because you have to structure it in a way that is emotionally and socially good for you.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when people meet people like this, they go, oh, I've heard about you. What a difference. What a difference to,
wow.
No, that's not possible. To, yeah, I've heard about people like you. So I know that in time, I would love to find this as just another option. But my ideal is somebody who's not emotionally hungry, because people who aren't emotionally hungry don't take from others. They're self-complete. People who are not mentally hungry, they don't, again, abuse others. All the abuse we see in the world of the natural resources, all the abuse we see towards each other, towards children, towards women, towards everything, all that disappears the more people become self-complete, self-sustaining mechanisms.
Well, it's amazing. I hadn't
That's
really
what I've noticed.
That aspect. Oh, okay.
That's what I've noticed.
So I wanted to get back to the information transmission, because I think not only is there conventionally, I hate to use the word conventional because I myself am anything but conventional, but I use the word anyway, that can be understood. And I think this communication is very important and also real. So I organize each year the annual conference on the chemistry and the physics, chemistry, and biology of water. It's in its 16th year. And I invite people who have something to say about that subject, something scientific or scientific by as defined by more or less conventional standards. And one of the people who came to our conference each year was Luc Montagnier, and you may know about him. He won the Nobel Prize for discovering HIV, and then he became interested in water, and he became interested in the idea that water may contain information. And he did an amazing experiment that many people doubt, but is now confirmed by 3 independent laboratories. And let me just tell you about it, because it has something to say about some of the topics that you've been talking about. So he put DNA, a short strand of DNA, in water or in an aqueous buffer, and a sealed container. So nothing could get out, nothing could get in, nothing could get out. And next to it, he put another sealed container containing only water. And his hypothesis was that the sequence information along the DNA was somehow being transmitted, somehow, but not by conventional means, to the water that's here. And in order to prove it, so the two are sitting next to each other for perhaps one day. And then he threw this one away, and he takes the water that he said had been informed by some kind of information, but he doesn't know what kind of information. And it probably relates to some of the things that you've been talking about. He takes it and he uses the standard PCR method that is used so commonly for COVID right now. And it's used to amplify the number of DNA molecules. And so it's easy to analyze what you got. And he found that what he got, the sequence of new DNA that he got from this was the same as the one that was sitting next to the vial of water, not communicating in any way, except by kind of subtle information. And that result amazed not only all the people at the water conference, but many people around the world, some of whom just dismissed him with the wave of a hand saying, I don't care if you won a Nobel Prize, this is nonsense. It can't be correct. Similar to the kinds of reactions that you were talking about early on. You know, scientists.
See, one of the things that I've found out, because I do believe we get given the hookup to the right people at the right time, and that I accept I'm out there. I accept that people think I'm crazy. I don't have letters behind my name. One of my early complaints was I wish I had have studied to be a doctor first and then a priest and then went on the global stage. But it was just a normal woman living in a certain way that had this ability.
Anyway, normal. No.
That's true, hardly.
Gifted in so many ways.
Well, I've always met up with the right people at the right time. And one of these people is Nassim Haramein. Now, I don't know if you know him, but one of the things he's proven is that the mathematical construct of an atom, that an atom operates as a black hole, and that's been proven. And I said to their team, I would love Nassim to prove that an atom operates as a white hole as well, depending on whether you're receiving or transmitting energy. That's interesting. But Nassim was pranic, lived on pure source energy for 3 years. So here is a scientist with a wonderful experience. And he said, see, what happens to your body when you are source fed is instead of 60% or 70% of your energy involved in digestion, you eat, digest, energy drops, you're going directly. You're getting the same energy from Mother Nature Chi, Cosmic Chi, Solar Chi, also to love vibration, essence Chi. So we're working with a lot of Chi fields. So you're going direct. So if you're not spending this energy in digestion, you can spend it in other ways. One of them is massive mental clarity. You start aligning your human mind with what I call the mind of supreme intelligence. And Nassim said this was incredible for his creativity and what he was doing. So he spent 3 years being fed like that to access massive creativity. The problem we have is that you get so energized with this frequency that you stop sleeping. Now, when you stop sleeping, like I've had years and years without sleep, is you miss the dreaming.
Excuse me, years without sleep?
Years without sleep. I would lay my body down to sleep, and 10 minutes later, wide awake, and it'd be like, body, I just put you to bed, and it would say, well, I'm not sleepy, am I? And so I got tired of that. You see, we can play with this. We can take our energy up, we can drop our energy down, and we can use physical food now and then to drop the energy because we're vibing too high. Like if I wanted to sleep, I would maybe take a potato, which is a root vegetable, and immediately I go into digestion and I'd sleep for 2 hours instead of 10 minutes, for example. So we experiment all the time. And for that time, Nassim was just not taking physical food because it was great for him for creativity. But a lot of people will go into this. They'll gain the gift. They know it's possible. The only way you know it's possible is by living it yourself experientially. But what comes with that can be too overwhelming because it's like you are aligned to the most amazing superconductor of energy, of a computer, of a mind, where your clairvoyance, your clairaudience, your telepathy, everything just goes, that it's too much. You can't handle it. Do you know what I mean? Like when I first went into this, I could read everybody's mind. Oh, horrible to walk down the street and be able to pick up on the human thought forms. It was like I had to learn to shield myself. I had to say, I do not want to talk to listen to connect with anyone who is not vibrating on a frequency of the greatest love and wisdom for humanity. Tune me to those channels. So it's like selective channel changing. There's so much you have to learn to deal with, because for me, when someone would sneeze, it was like, and they'd be across the room, it was like a psychic arrow, bomb into my field. I became so sensitive. My smell was overwhelming. I had to work with toning down some of my senses. And eventually you can just go, oh, it's all too much. And so you'll change the way you're vibing to just be able to be more normal in this world for a while. So you can go in and out, but you end up realizing that it is a superior way of being, and it is a superior way of being simply because the energies you are tapping into on a level of creative potential and creativity are just so fascinating that most of what's going on in the world is just like, yeah, I know that boring, same old, same old. Tell me more, show me more of the holographic construct of all of creation. Show me of how universal laws operate. Show me the truth of all the holy messengers, what they're talking about. Let me experience this. Let me have this as an experiential truth. And so because your underlying motivation is that you operate in a way that's for the highest good and nourishing for all sentient life, you immediately attract another level, which I call grace. Because the unified field will, because like my interest in the unified field and the vibrational construct within an atom is its attributes. Yes, pure love, infinite light, so much wisdom. But what I love is benevolence. Oh, the energy of benevolence, because this vibration of benevolence is flowing through our atoms. Like I feed, like how it works is you have a cell and this essence energy that is benevolent, loving and wise, it flows through a cell like wind through a tunnel. And every cell has these filaments when you look with your third eye. And so as the wind of essence, of infinite potential of the unified field vibrates through the atom, through the cells, the filaments on the cells inside go and take what they need. That's how I eat. I don't eat from sunlight. I don't eat from photosynthesis. I don't eat from anything external. I have this restaurant, the vibrational essence ocean vibrating through, and I've instructed the body to feed from it in the right way. See, then you have an issue of weight. You have this reality that if you stop taking physical food, you're going to lose weight. And because you think that, you will. What if you surrendered the weight of your body, of the biosystem, and you ask that essence energy to make you the perfect weight it wants you to be? Suddenly, for me, when I did that, I put on 6 kilos. In 3 weeks. 3 weeks, 6 kilos.
Wow.
I'd had children and I could never put on weight after my kids were born, no matter what I did, because I was choosing a vegan raw diet anyway. But when I stood and with a real heart of surrender, essence, it's ridiculous. It's your body. Make me the weight you want me to be. 3 weeks, 6 kilos. I didn't know the body could do that. Shocking.
So may I ask you, the experience, what moved me and the many things that you've been talking about is your ability to walking down the street and receiving information from all of the people around you, of which you didn't to receive, but you received it anyway. And so my question to you is, pardon?
It was too much.
Yeah, okay. My question to you is, do you think it's possible that the information that you were receiving is something similar to what I was describing from that it could be in the water that's inside your body is receiving information? Yeah.
See, in my early books, one of the things, because it was like I want more scientific proof, so I wrote a book called Ambassadors of Light. And I find the quantum field always brings me the right research, connects me with the right people when I'm ready, when they're ready. And there was a book written on scientific experimentation on Qigong coming out of China. They were able to do things like they could, just by focusing, move pills out of a bottle that is sealed to come out of the body and transmigrate through the solid structure of the bottle into being beside the bottle, not on the bottle. They were able to have children, and they still do, who can read by standing on a book. How can you read by standing on a book? That's interesting. Their field of experiment, like I realized, what if I took a bottle of vitamins? This is very cheap. If I took a vitamin of bottles and I just hold it to my heart, and with love, I connect with the elemental structure of what's in the bottle, and I ask my body to absorb whatever is in that bottle that's for my highest good into itself. Yeah. Why not? What if I took water, and that began my experimentation after what Masaru was sharing. What if I take water and I just hold it to my heart, and the first frequency of contact must be love. And so I just hold it there, and it's like water, water, water. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Element of water. I love you. 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 I appreciate you so much, and feel it. You got to feel it. And then say, I am now asking for the change of the molecular structure within this water to go into the frequency that is for my highest good and for my body as I ingest it. The whole structure of the water changes. Masaru proved this with people standing around lakes and polluted areas and just sending love into the water, and the water cleaned up and all the pollution went away. Guess what? That's free. I don't have to pay for vitamins or minerals anymore, because I can simply say to my body, as this vibratory field is flowing through me as essence ocean, then I want you to absorb whatever you need into yourself to become a self-sustaining, self-regenerating vehicle. Take all my vitamins, all my protein, all my nourishment, because science will say a human body has to take external vitamin C or you get scurvy. We don't. Why not? Because the very baseline of, because I call essence baseline of creation. Now, if that baseline of creation can bring universes into being, why can't it give us breakfast, lunch, and dinner if it's vibrating through us?
Yeah, sure. Well,
see what I mean? Logic. So you got to work with left brain, intellect, and also with intuitive sense of what could be. So my first code for people is to go into your heart and say, I want to experience the magnificence of this human design. Reveal to me in the right way exactly what I'm capable of. And see what happens. Then fields start to change.
The idea of the information that we've been talking about stored in water actually is based on a simple notion of the structure of water. And an example is in computers. Computer memories are actually very simple. They mostly, for example, the thumb drive that I have, I stick into my computer slot. It consists of an array of transistors, a two-dimensional array, and each one of the many transistors in the array, regularly arranged in the array, each one has two states, and we call them 0, 1. You know that because of your experience.
Yeah.
Well, easy water or fourth phase water that we discovered has essentially the same characteristics. The oxygens and hydrogens that were once in liquid water are arrayed in a very regular array, just like in the computer memory. And it turns out that the oxygens have not only two states, but they actually have 5 oxidation states. -2 is the usual one that we learn in chemistry class, but it also has -1, 0, +1, +2. So the two characteristics, the two essential characteristics of a computer memory are present in the easy fourth phase water that we discovered. So it has the capacity, in more or less conventional terms, of storing information. And we actually computed, because we're dealing with the atomic scale rather than than a transistor scale. That's
the point.
Yeah.
Go quantum. Yes.
I'm sorry?
That's the point. Go quantum. Go beyond the quantum. I know, the atomic, back to quantum, back to the unified field.
Well, I'm not sure I'm there with you, because I can never understand quantum mechanics. So quantum mechanics, I have trouble. Mother Nature, we think Mother Nature works on simple principles, and quantum mechanics is actually abstract mathematics, and somehow trying to relate the principle of simplicity that Mother Nature operates with quantum mechanics, which is abstract mathematics. I always have been led to wonder, how is this possible? I mean, does Mother Nature give up on the principle of simplicity and relegate her astounding energy and wisdom into abstract mathematics? That part of.
I don't know if it's. I don't know if it's abstract mathematics, because you look at the sacred geometric patterning of all the constructs of Mother Nature. When you go there, you look at more complexity, and then you look at the vibrational tonality of a sacred geometric pattern again. But like, I love string theory, but string theory is proven scientifically, supposedly, the existence of 11 dimensions. Well, there's a lot more. There's a lot more subtlety and subtlety. So it just depends, I think, on your field of research and your pattern of energy. And I'm loving that you are so focused on the water, and then take it to the fact of the fluid of our own bodies.
Well, I'm focused on the water, but I'm interested in all of the phenomena that you discuss. And my goal is to try to relate some of these phenomena.
Yeah, I know. It's hard for you guys, because I'm so hard, and then you've got to prove it somehow.
Well, as I said, I think, it's impossible to prove anything. You can only disprove it if you find some evidence that doesn't agree.
Yeah.
You can prove it, because there's always the possibility that someone will come around with evidence that doesn't fit, and then
society moves along and we evolve. We used to think that the sun ran around the earth, and now it's like, no. But Copernicus had a bit of a hard time.
So there's virtually every scientist whose opinions deviated from the mainstream.
I know.
Do you know about Semmelweis?
No.
Well, he was a Hungarian doctor who got to work in the most prominent hospital of all in Vienna. This was 150 years ago, and the women who were coming in to deliver, they went through a triage, and the ones who went to the midwives did very well, and the ones who went to the doctors, more often than not, came out in coffins. And so this guy, he was appalled by it, and he tried to figure out what's going wrong. So he took account of the doctor's daily regimen. They would come in the morning, and the first thing they would do is examine the corpses of the women who had died. And then immediately after that, they would do internal exams on the women who were about to deliver. And so he thought, maybe they picked up, this was before Pasteur, maybe they picked up something in their hands that they transmitted to this women. And he thought, I think what I'll do is try washing my hands. And his pictures did very well. And there's now a medical school in Hungary that's named the Semmelweis Medical School in Budapest. But you'd think that he went to his senior colleagues. You'd think that the colleagues would say, this is an amazing finding. Yeah. We can protect our patients this way. But they dismissed them because they were challenged. Their authority was challenged. Yeah. And so they declared him crazy, and they sent him to a mental institution where he died soon after. So this is another example. It's not just Copernicus and Galileo.
And Tesla.
And Tesla.
Tesla. Oh, my God. He died alone and broke in a hotel room. His money he earned went back to his designs, wasn't patented properly. And now people love what he's doing.
Yes, they love. So
in time. So you learn, in this journey, you learn to be very patient. Like, I know that this is beneficial for humankind, but I also know that people will be able to tap more into it and the understanding and the experience of it when they themselves are ready. And I know that there's a level of scientific inquiry that cannot go further until people are prepared to go beyond left brain logic and accept right brain intuitive senses as well, to be able to receive it there and then prove it, which many people I know now are doing. So yay, we're
changing. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I just interject for a second? So
sorry.
I know that Jerry's doing lots of work with consciousness and water, and even has healers sending energy to the water test. So I would like you to share some about that. And I just wanted to share as well, because the two of you have covered so much things. When I was a child, I was clairvoyant, clair everything. And like you, Jazz, I was picking up on everybody's thoughts and everything, and I didn't know how to deal with it. So luckily, my mother taught me, because she was clairvoyant, how to stop it. And then I know at one stage you said you thought you might be schizophrenic, and I worked as a registered psychiatric nurse. I was doing my student training, and I got a psychiatrist to interview my mother and I to see if we were crazy. And I used to play in the water as a child, and my mother used to go mad because I'd come home with no shoes and socks, often no underwear, and she'd be like, oh no, because I'd be there like 4 or 5 playing in the brook. And that was my true nature. I was happier with the spirit world and speaking to them. But then I got a message recently to stop and do all the scientific stuff. So I am a Psych-K practitioner, advanced practitioner. I'm a Reiki master and teacher, and so forth. And because people wanted the science behind it. And now it's like, go back to being a 5-year-old and just be free, tap into that freedom. And this is why I'm traveling in nature. But I really wanted you to get together, because I'm not sure what's going to evolve from it. But Jerry's doing the research, and I think it'd be good to know what you're finding with the tests with healers and waters. And also it was good, Jazz, that you clarified on a scientific point of view that you don't necessarily get your light energy from the sun, because you do the dark room retreats. So as a scientist, Jerry, with the experiments that you're doing with the light, I'd like to hear more what your thoughts are over that. And I know we have, because I was going to say,
okay, on the latter point about doing experiments in the dark, the infrared energy is really what provides the energy for all the things that we've been talking about. That's what we found anyway. And infrared energy, of course, comes from the sun, and we feel it as heat from the sun, and 50% of the sun's energy is infrared energy. So, however, it's not the only source. If we have a completely dark room, Jazz, for example, you're in your room, turn off all the lights and close all the shades on the windows so that not even your cell phone camera can pick up anything, and even you, with the many gifts that you have, can't see anything. If you have a camera with an infrared sensor, that is an infrared camera. So instead of the visible light sensor, it has an infrared light sensor. You get a beautiful image of you and all the plants on the wall, and the picture that's sitting on the wall, because everything is generating infrared energy. So the energy that's required to build this kind of a 4th phase water, which I think is critically important in everything we do. We haven't had a chance to talk about that, but that our evidence indicates that that's the case. That energy is available. So, your question about the dark room, I think it doesn't matter if you're in a dark room or if you're living in a cave. The infrared energy is always present. And you also get more of it, you get some of it from metabolism in your body, which generates heat, which is essentially the same as infrared energy. And you can also get it, of course, from immersing yourself in a sauna. That heat is essentially infrared energy. And if buildup of easy water is really important for your body's actions, you get plenty of it if you go into a sauna. And that's why people feel a whole lot better after they get out, because it builds easy water, and easy water is absolutely essential for everything that we do. Now, your other question about the healers. So we've come to recognize that healers possess either their own energy, or more likely that they can transmit the energy from somewhere through their body to heal somebody. And I think Reiki is one example. So we have interest in trying to determine whether that occurs, whether the substrate for all of that is water, because we're filled with water. You know, as you said, the brain is 80%, the rest of the body maybe 70% by volume. But if you were to line up all the molecules in your body one by one and start counting them, you'd find that more than 99% of them are water molecules, because in order to fill that 2/3 volume, the water molecules are tiny, and therefore you need a whole lot of them. So if you start counting, you'll find that 99% of your molecules are water molecules. So the water is really important. And there, for that and various other reasons, we have the hypothesis that the healing energy is somehow transmitted, and the receiving substrate is water.
Yes.
And so we're testing that in the laboratory. We invite healers to come, and the healers will then project their energy or transmit their energy to the water. And then we have 5 different ways of measuring the physical chemical properties of the water. So I know it sounds rather conventional according to your standards, but that's what we do. And well, you know, other scientists will listen if we find something. So far, we're still in preliminary studies. We're still refining the methodology, because we don't know. We haven't known exactly, should this container of water be open or closed? Should it be, what kind of water should we use? What duration should we keep the healer connected with the water? How should we instruct the healer to project their energy, and so on? So I can't say that we have any definitive results yet, but we're working every day on this, and I hope within the next month or 2 we may have something to report. So I hope that answers the two questions that you asked, Beverly.
Thank you.
I'd like to add, though, too, to what you were saying, Jerry, is the further along I get in my research, the more I realize I know absolutely nothing at all.
Like the rest of us.
It's such a huge field of research. It's like an onion that, you know, you get a revelation when you can match the field, and then another revelation, and then another. And so, and what is revealed to us in our fields of experiment is very much depending on the uniqueness of every individual. So I might get revelation that other people won't get, and vice versa. But all I can do is say, okay, just allow me to not only just experience it myself, but be able to educate in a way that people can handle. Because I know when I get that punch, I'm not educating properly. You know, it's up to me. I can't expect others, but I can keep refining my educational model. So how can we refine it? How can we change it? But I also know that we all will take a certain field of research, someone else will connect in, and they will present it with other words, other terminology, and it will go farther out. And then their people will present it with other words and other terminology, and it will go further out. So we're all working together as a beautiful team, presenting what is beneficial for humankind. And just your research, to be able to say to people, you are all this water, like 99.99999% space in an atom is not space. There's a lot more in that. It's not space, that a human being is a teaspoon of solidity, a teaspoon, and that's just according to the solid stuff in an atom. That's fascinating. What about DNA, unexpressed potential? We can alter DNA through lifestyle. What about junk DNA? It's not junk DNA, it's unexpressed potential. What about dark matter? It's not emptiness, it's a vibratory signature that is working in a very particular manner that we don't understand yet. That's all. Boy, is there a lot to discover, and how exciting.
Well, there's a lot to discover. And, you know, I tend to be a skeptic on what I think the world needs is, in addition to what the kinds of things that you're doing, there's also room for a bottom-up kind of
has
approach.
to be.
Yeah, and you need to know the absolute foundation of truth and science, and because if you build on a foundation that is erroneous, you'll get only very complicated constructs that are self-contradictory and very confusing and complicated. But if nature really works simply, then if you start with the right foundation, you can build to something understandable. I'm trying to do that now, to build a foundation. And if you build the right foundation, it should be easy to integrate the kinds of concepts that you're thinking of with foundational concepts. And that's my goal, to do that. And you mentioned atomic structure, and I have a book that's about to come out about atomic structure. And I take an unpopular view that what we've come to believe is the true atomic structure is not true. And I could describe it, but I think, we're running out
Another time.
Another time.
Yeah.
I would like to add, though, just to complete, though, Jerry, with what you're saying, is I like simplicity too. And so my field of study is the baseline energy, what brought creation into being. And the good news is 3 frequencies: love, wisdom, and when love and wisdom unified, you get power. From there, everything else came. Baseline.
To the listeners, thank you. And I hope you have picked up lots of knowledge and information. And it's all about experiential and feeling and being ready, being open. And thank you for both of you for the great work that you're doing for humanity and our planet.
Thank you for organizing this. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Me. Bye.